Hello and welcome back to Expedition Homestead. I hope you are having an incredible day. Today we're going to be planting some of our tomato seedlings in our raised bed here. This bed right here is specifically made for our largest tomato varieties. As you can see, we've got a trellis here. We're going to build another trellis in the front for our front row as well. We're growing Rutgers tomato, Homestead tomato, Paul Robeson tomatoes, vintage wine tomatoes, and then Azoicha tomatoes. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. So in today's video, we're going to be showing you how to plant these and then the different little tips and tricks that we use along the way while planting them. I will have everything listed with timestamps and chapters, so if you have a specific area that you want to jump to, feel free to do so. Let's not get too carried away. Before we actually get to planting these, I want to talk about the time of year in which you're doing this. You want to make sure that nighttime temperatures don't fall below 45 degrees at the minimum. Really, 50 degrees is optimal. So say we get some 65, 75 degree days with 50 degree nights. That is absolutely perfect for transplanting your seedlings. And of course, make sure that you harden them off before you do. If you don't know how to do that, I've got a video on the channel, so go ahead and check that out. We had a new one this year I put out just a few days ago. First things first, let's just hop right into it. We're gonna show you the varieties and the seedlings here and show you how we plant them deep into our soil. The order will be as followed. Hopefully we can make 2 rows. So we're going to have a row of Homestead tomatoes, then Rutgers tomatoes, Paul Robeson tomatoes, then we'll have Mortgage Lifter and vintage wine tomatoes as well. Real quick, let's talk about organization and how you can keep track of your tomatoes very easily. I found that this numbering system works great. So you can tell we've got a bunch of different numbers on here. We are planting our 1s, 2s, 3s, 5s, and 6s. Our 4s are our gobstopper tomatoes. But the reason why I use this numbering system is that it's really easy to mark each of these little containers with this number compared to the entire name. And then we have a separate file, our folder, that has the names that are attributed to each number. And then I have a separate page showing all of our garden beds. And then when I plant these, on that page, I'll simply write down 1 where the 1s are planted, 2s, 3s, and so on. That is an extremely easy way to keep well organized. We've picked out the best of the best, and I'm gonna take our extras here, and we're either going to grow them in a different spot in the garden or give them to some friends and family so that they can grow them themselves. I mean, let's be honest, having a few extra tomato plants was never a bad thing. Yep, right there. That's gonna be our first one, which is number 1, which is a Rutgers tomato. So to dig this down, there's nothing special to it except for the fact that we're gonna be planting this deep. So I'm actually gonna pinch off this foliage here, and then I'm gonna pinch off this foliage here, just leaving the very top few leaves.
Before we put the tomato plant in, we use fertilizer. Is that right?
Fertilizer.
Fertilizer.
Fertilizer, yep. Before we put the tomatoes in, we want to inoculate a little bit of fertilizer in here. This is Dr. Earth's Pure Gold 222 all-purpose fertilizer. I absolutely love this stuff. We're just gonna take about a tablespoon of this, a little bit more than that. Put it down, and then mix it in the bottom of this hole here. And then, oops, put it down. Are not deep enough yet. And then planting this tomato in really deep.
Then what we
Filling the soil back, yep. Just like that. So we had several inches of stem above the soil before, but now we're almost to the very top of this plant now. The reason why we do this, if you're not familiar with all my other videos I've done on tomatoes, is that planting deep allows the root structure to grow out of that stem, providing your tomato plant with the base that it needs to grow for the rest of the season. Should we do another one? Let's do another one. Let's put another Rutgers tomato right here. All right, now it looks like it's ready to plant.
You're the best planter.
Oh, thank you. What can I say? So there is our first Rutgers tomatoes. We're going to go through and get the rest of these planted, and then I will show you all the continued care that you have to take with these seedlings from this point on. All right, we've got them all planted. In this single bed, we have 10 tomato plants. These are all indeterminate varieties, and these are all going to get very big too. Like I said earlier, our last ones grew up to maybe 1.5 feet taller than our trellis that we had back here. So just about 9 feet tall were our tallest tomato plants last year. So I'm very excited for them this year. Before I talk about watering and everything, I'd talk about one more thing that we inoculate into the soil, which is mycorrhizal fungi. Again, if you're not familiar with the channel, I preach it. I absolutely preach that no matter what you're planting, you should be inoculating some mycorrhizal fungi in the soil. Our beds do particularly well with it because we have this top layer of mulch that we add every year. This is just ground up wood chips that we get for free from the city. So the reason why we have those is that it really helps in keeping the soil nice and moist, and also keeps the microbial content very, very high. It's constantly breaking down, adding more and more nutrients to the bacteria, which will then in turn feed the mycorrhizal fungi, and then in turn feed your plants, because that, ladies and gentlemen, is how living soil works. Now, after you've planted your tomato seedlings, make sure you give them a good watering. You're going to go around the whole base of the tomato, the areas surrounding it as well. We don't just want to go right here only. We want to make sure that we're soaking up the soil around it as well, so that moisture can wick into wherever it really has to in the coming days. After we water this, I will then add a nice layer of mulch on top of it, again to help retain some more moisture in the soil. Yeah, sure. Do you want to water? Careful. During the first few weeks after transplanting, make sure you keep the soil pretty moist. You know, these are not established plants, so keeping moist soil is definitely a must-have at this point. They are looking really, really well. I think they're going to do great this year. Very excited for our future videos on these tomato plants. I've got some other watering to do here in the garden, so I figure I'll just talk to you all a little bit about what we have growing so far, the different seeds we have, how we're feeling overall in the garden this year. You know, because it has been a very busy and stressful year so far. I feel like we're behind just because of the weather. We are like a couple of weeks behind, but I know nonetheless we'll still have a great harvest. I'm not too worried about that, but it's just kind of natural to feel behind in the garden at some points. So I just encourage you, if you're maybe feeling the same way, to not worry about it, to step back and think about the reasons why we actually do this in the first place. It shouldn't always be just about the harvest, you know, when we're working in a small backyard garden. It is more of a time to reflect, a time to enjoy ourselves, So just keep that in the forefront of your mind if you are struggling at the time. I definitely feel you. I'm there with you. I understand what it's like. Right now, we are watering the peas that we have. This whole bed, I pretty much decided to grow peas because the kids really, really love them so much. And feel like we could never have enough peas to go around between the family and then also our friends and neighbors. I am a little bit concerned because we don't have too many of them popping up yet. That actually looks like lettuce. I think we've got some lettuce seeds popping up in a few different areas. But let's try and find there. So right there's one there. But besides a couple of random ones here and there, I don't know. They just don't seem like I have very many germinating. And hopefully they'll all come up, and it's just maybe by chance that they're not all coming up at the same time. You know, we have a row here, a row there, and then we have 2 more rows here. So 4 rows of peas in total here. So fingers crossed that I don't have to go out and buy some sweet peas or sugar snap peas that are already growing. And please let our seeds germinate. I have no idea why they wouldn't be germinating. I've been doing the same exact thing that I do every year, so it would be a mystery to me. Just another one of those things that I worry about. Now, this bed is all of our bush beans, and then we'll be growing pole beans up on this trellis here. So we got all that watered already, just giving it one final walk over. I like to kind of do a one over with the beds, and then I'll come through after that water has soaking up into the soil, and then just do a quick spray like you just saw for a little bit of extra measure to make sure that water goes down deep. Here are our kohlrabi. We just transplanted them a few days ago, so they're kind of going through a little bit of shock. You see these bottom petals are just about done for, but they do this every year. You know, the transplanting of them can kind of go good or bad. The purple Vienna kohlrabi always seem to do better than the white Vienna kohlrabi, just by chance. But when transplanting these seedlings, we got to make sure we do keep them really well watered, especially when we go from 60-degree days all the way up to 75-degree days, just like that. It is a big temperature change, and that can really dry out the soil and cause a lot of stress on your seedlings. But kohlrabi are very, very hardy. Not worried about these bad boys whatsoever. Kohlrabi are some of my favorite plants to grow and eat. There's all kinds of things that you can do with them. You can actually pickle them and ferment them too, and they're really good in salads or just raw. If you get some kohlrabi and either salt, so either you're a kohlrabi eater with salt or you like your kohlrabi with ranch, maybe drop a comment down below what you enjoy, or a couple of different garden foods. Your favorite fresh vegetable out of the garden. You know, is that a tomato, a ripe tomato with a little sprinkle of salt, or is that kohlrabi, radish, turnips? I love turnips too. A lot of people don't like turnips. Just drop a comment down below what your favorite vegetable is to pick out of the garden and eat fresh. We got several rows of lettuce and then a mixed green, like a salad green mix. We have not thinned these out yet. We're gonna thin them out as we eat them. So instead of like actually thinning them out, what we'll do is when we harvest some of these to thin them out, I'll just pick them up from the root and then just chop off what we want to eat. That's a nice way of thinning them out while still utilizing all of the resources that we have, you know, all the seeds that are growing. Okay, maybe to speed things up real quick, we'll do a speed round. We've also got radishes, beets, and bok choy, a whole bed of carrots. That bed back there, the far one, is going to be for our cucumbers and peppers. These are going to be all of our onions. We're a little bit late to transplant them. We've got strawberries coming back nice and strong. We only had a couple of plants last year. They are growing like crazy, just like strawberries always do. And our rhubarb looking great. The next things we have to transplant in the garden will be our onions, our peppers, our cucumbers, and then we also have a couple of broccoli to transplant as well. So yeah, there is the scope of our vegetable garden for you. The real reason I got to get going here is because I've got some kids that need me. We are a family of 5, very, very busy all the time. We are so grateful that we have this garden and all of the great experiences that the kids get to have around the garden and plants and the different things that you learn when working with plants. It has been such a blessing, and you've all been such a blessing too. I want to thank you all so much for watching and tuning into the channel. If you're not a subscriber, strongly encourage you to do so. Let's hit that thumbs up button. Let's get 100 likes on today's video. It would be so awesome. Thank you all so much for watching. Happy gardening, and we'll see you in the next episode.